So welcome everyone to today's short online seminar on research collaboration strategies and tools. As a note, this session is being recorded and you'll receive a notification when the recording and the slides are available to you. So I'm Julie Goldman, Research Data Services Librarian at Countway Library at Harvard Medical School, and I offer a lot of these data management training classes, but I'm also available to the Harvard community for consultations on identifying best practices for data management, creating a data management plan, or if you need to find any data. And the Longwood Medical Area Research Data Management Working Group has a website full of resources and information like the topics we'll be talking about today. And this working group includes members from across the LMA community, from the library, information technology, research computing, research cores, and our affiliate hospitals. So I highly suggest you bookmark this website and reference it as you need. So let's review today's learning objectives. You'll understand research collaboration benefits and challenges. You'll be able to apply principles of good collaboration, and I'll share some various collaboration tools that can help you. So research collaboration is essentially the practice of sharing knowledge and ideas to achieve a common goal. Collaborative projects often bring together partners across disciplines, institutions, and sectors. And these projects, present opportunities for innovation, but they also raise challenges for development of efficient and effective workflows and the management of data. And there are many tools available that can and should be used to support these types of projects, which we'll discuss later in today's session. So researchers should think of collaboration as a way of enhancing ideas and increasing our creativity. So whether it's across labs in your program, across areas in your department, or across disciplines, there is much to be gained by bridging the divide between maybe isolated research groups. And because science and practice are enriched by collaboration among individuals with diverse but complementary perspectives, formal opportunities for collaboration are becoming increasingly common. So lately at Harvard, we have seen these formal collaborations form in response to some of the global events. So in this example, Harvard Medical School, affiliated hospitals, and research institutions have come together to form these 6 research working groups in collaboration with a Chinese research institution. And these working groups, will focus on clinical management, diagnostics, epidemiology, pathogenetics, therapeutics, and vaccines. And this is, of course, in rapid response to COVID-19. This other recent example highlights Harvard Medical School partnering with a pharmaceutical company. And this collaborative research alliance will study and develop novel therapies against emergent viral infections with a focus, on coronaviruses. And then this last example highlights the common practice of building communities across organizations. So the Raygon Institute brings together labs from MGH, HMS, and MIT. And these labs may be focusing on different or similar areas of research. So with more and multiple types of researchers working together, ideally, treatments, vaccines, or new therapies can be more rapidly developed in response to disease and infections. So the term collaboration in academic research is usually thought to mean an equal partnership between 2 academic faculty members who maybe are pursuing mutually interesting and beneficial research. Today, however, as we saw in the previous examples, many collaborations involve researchers of differing stature, funding status, and then types of organizations. So for example, clinical trials are a particular type of collaboration that occur in the biomedical field. And these involve, the testing of experimental treatments, medications, or devices on human participants. Frequently, several sites and many researchers will be involved. And this type of collaboration will often include a formal board that will develop the criteria and procedures concerning such matters as submission of publications. So in this manner, the many researchers involved, reach a consensus on how certain aspects of the project will be handled. So for instance, researchers in the same laboratory or academic department may work together on a sponsored program, or researchers may be members of different departments at the same institution. And they may make equal contributions to a project, or one researcher may be leading the project while another is providing expertise on a smaller or more narrowly defined aspect. And this can occur within, the same general discipline of research, or it could be part of an interdisciplinary project, which we'll talk about in a bit. On the other, in another example, sometimes two or more researchers at different institutions work separately yet collaborate on a project. And this can occur in a variety of ways, but most frequently the researchers will be working on different aspects of the same project, exchanging data, compiling data for the entire project, and then doing, some joint analysis, reporting, and then publication. And collaborations between researchers are particularly complicated, when researchers work at institutions in different countries. Not only can the distance affect communication and project oversight, but there may be some cultural differences that may further complicate that communication and overall conduct of the project. So an example of this collaborative situation, the NSF funds a project at a university's business school in which the PI is studying the financial status of individuals having very academic degrees. So in this project, the PI might have one or more collaborators in the economics department who will be collecting economic data, say from the Department of Labor databases. So interdisciplinary projects occur when researchers from different academic disciplines are involved in a project. And interdisciplinary research is a mode of research by teams or individuals that integrates, information, data, perspectives, or theories from these multiple disciplines. And the goal of interdisciplinary research is to really advance understanding or to solve problems whose solutions are beyond the scope of one single area of research practice. So here's an example with interdisciplinary research. So the NIH funds a project concerning how certain chemical compounds affect animal and human tissues. So such a project may involve chemists, biologists, and even statisticians who specialize in epidemiology. So why should we really, care about and support these collaborative research and disciplinary teams? So this cartoon depicts two researchers who have been working side by side for 20 years, never have communicated, and therefore they never know that they are in fact working on the same research questions. So overall, collaboration should increase communication and bring together people towards a shared effort and insight against, some of our most challenging issues. So ideally, scientists should work together. And there are many benefits of this collaborative research. So collaboration provides more perspectives on a problem, greater efficiency through the division of labor. Pulling together resources can bring together diverse groups and build this long-lasting relationships. With collaborations, accountability for the work is key. Also, when working with others, there are opportunities to learn alternative ways of doing things and either find a mentor or become a mentor. And working with others outside of your, maybe academic comfort zone or discipline, this can also provide you with new skills that only enhance your research and then your professional goals. Another benefit is the opportunity to develop as a scholarly author and reach a wider audience with your work. So writing with different collaborators for different audiences requires you to communicate your ideas and methods more effectively than you might do when writing for your peers and close colleagues. Yet, collaborative research can pose many ethical challenges. It can be challenging to review the work of team members because they might be located in different regions of the world. One should be aware that coworkers can be at different stages of their careers and may have, different expectations in terms of what they aim to accomplish when conducting research. Typically, the project or lab director should set the tone by handling any conflicts. For example, conflict may occur when lab resources are shared. And clear communication about when researchers are entitled to have access to equipment can be very useful. Collaborative research also generates ethical issues pertaining to authorship. So conventions vary in different fields regarding the kind of contribution to a project that is needed for a researcher to be entitled to have their name on a publication. But in general, each researcher must make a significant intellectual contribution or scientific contribution to a project just in order to being listed as an author. So let's wrap up this first section on collaborative research with a few questions. So first, what is collaboration in academic research? And then, are you involved in a collaborative research project or initiative? Great, so I'll give people a couple more seconds to answer our first poll questions. Great, so yeah, collaboration in academic research is all of the above. So it's usually maybe two equal partners in a research program. It may involve more people than that. And then sharing of research materials and facilities can even be considered a collaborative effort. And looks like 50-50 on today's call have been involved or are currently in a collaborative research project. So great experience in our group today. So next, let's talk about what effective collaboration is. So here's a list of principles that facilitate an effective or successful research collaboration. So let's go through each of these. So first, address those mutual expectations. Every member of a team may have, different expectations about how each person will contribute and how they will be credited, that authorship we talked about. And discussing these openly makes it easier for each team member to contribute to the project effectively. And then clearly divide and establish who is responsible for each task. And you should document those roles and responsibilities and document procedures and protocols so that work can be followed or completed should a member, leave the team. And then determine that authorship. Again, without defining roles, confusion and disagreement over that first authorship may occur. Agreement on authorship at the beginning of a project is really important. And if the project changes or takes a new direction, then authorship may change too. So just address that as it comes up. So communicate frequently. If possible, meet regularly to check in and keep those lines of communication open. If you don't have a clear timeline or clear research goals, it really becomes easy to fall out of touch. And use agreed upon modes of communication and file sharing. You should ideally take minutes of meetings and then distribute to everyone involved in the research so everyone is up to speed and on the same page. And this also provides some documentation that can be referred to later and keeps the communication going. For accessing data, not all parties may have access to all data. So a clear conversation at the beginning of the project is necessary to establish who will have access to what information. And this should be addressed in the team's organization plan, which we will discuss next. And then discuss, the expectations for the data with all researchers before the research begins. So determine, how will the research be communicated and how soon will it be shared after the research is conducted. So for example, an academic may be eager to publish findings for tenure, while the researcher in industry wants a patent to be filed on the idea first. And then lastly, collaboration on research also means a shared responsibility for integrity in that research. So this includes data verification, ensuring no research misconduct, and then disclosures of all activities. So pulling from those principles, here are the 3 key elements I think are the most important for collaborative research. So let's look at how each of these areas can be addressed in a collaborative project and what tools are available to help. So first, with documentation, written agreements are not just a good idea, but they are often a requirement imposed by employing institutions or those external research sponsors. So some of the research-related issues that should be covered include intellectual property. So the concern here would involve the rights to patentable inventions discovered during the research. The use of data. So data are traditionally owned by the institution or the researcher developing or collecting them. And then collaborating institutions need to ensure that their researchers have access to that data. And then data retention and preservation. So once project information and data are collected, analyzed, and reported, it is vital that they be maintained after the project closes. So if a project is funded by an external sponsor, it is almost a certainty that data retention will be a requirement of that award. And agreements covering data retention may also call for the destruction of materials or the return of materials to the providing party at the end of a project. So those are the things mostly covered in written agreements. So ideally, an operational plan should be documented for everyone to refer back to. It's kind of a way to capture those unwritten things that you may see in some collaborations. And this provides a crucial opportunity to get everyone on the same page and outline the expectations and outcomes of the collaboration. So two key areas that should definitely be addressed are that authorship and accountability. So with authorship and credit, again, determine where the results will be presented and or published, who will be included as authors, what will be the order of those co-authors, and who will have, the final authority to approve any presentations or publications. Again, working these out ahead of time can save those difficult conversations down the road. And again, if this changes, then the plan should be updated along the way as well. So for research accountability, decide what type of access members will have to each other's data or notes, and how frequently the members of the collaboration will meet to discuss and evaluate those results. Identifying tools and systems before you start will facilitate these access controls and permissions. So documentation tools. One tool I like is the Open Science Framework. OSF is nice because it is a cloud-based management system providing project structuring with a wiki, file versioning, and access controls. It also integrates with many additional platforms you may be using like Dropbox, GitHub, or Google Drive. And since it's possible that members of, a collaborative group will be using many different tools and platforms, OSF is then a great connector for everyone on that research team. And for documentation, the wiki feature is a great place to include that operational plan and also any information about how team members can navigate and access the various elements of a project. So for example, the project shown on the screen is actually for a lab, and the main wiki page of the OSF project welcomes users to the lab and helps them navigate to important pages and links. So here one could find lab protocols, projects, and data. Now, having information in one place like this allows larger collaborative teams where people may come and go. It allows them to stay up to date on all of the project aspects. So another tool that focuses on the creation and sharing of research methods is protocols.io. Protocols.io allows you to create step-by-step, detailed, interactive, and dynamic protocols that can be run, on your mobile device or on the computer. And this platform is useful for researchers in any discipline that use a step-by-step methodology. So research labs or projects may be interested in taking advantage of the ability to create groups where they can organize all of their methods in one place to share. This helps make sure that important methods and protocols aren't lost when people leave a lab or a project. Additionally, we have seen how this platform can be used to create standard operating procedures during this COVID-19 pandemic. The example on the left side of the screen is from Harvard University Lab, where they have outlined the steps researchers must take when coming to the lab, working in the lab, and leaving the lab during this time. So for documentation, our next poll question, or questions ask, why should a written agreement formalizing a collaboration be signed? And then have you used one of these documentation tools that I've highlighted today? All right, I'll give you another few seconds to answer your question, answer these questions. Great, so yeah, the main reason for a written agreement is to determine, the rights and the responsibilities of the collaborators before a project. As I mentioned, some institutions and agencies may require these, but overall, it's outlining those rights and responsibilities. And then it's awesome to see that some of you are already using the Open Science Framework and protocols.io. I would love to hear more about how you're using these platforms, so feel free to add that into the chat if you would like. Okay. So the next key practice for successful collaborations is organizing our folders and files. And the team should really, establish systems, document them, and use them consistently. It's also best practice to have one project per folder with nested folders, create separate folders for data or project stages, and use clear and consistent file naming conventions to ensure the organization of those files within folders. And I have gone into detail on each of these steps in previous webinars, but I will highlight, 3 practices here today. So naming conventions are important for collaborative research projects since they keep everyone informed on what files contain. So recall our best practices for naming conventions. First, think about your files or groups of files that you're going to be generating naming conventions for. Identify metadata crucial for you or someone else to identify the contents of that file. Abbreviate or encode metadata to ensure you include everything you have and document those codes. Use versioning in the file name if appropriate. Think about what elements in your files you will search for. Do you want your files to sort in a specific way? And deliberately separate metadata elements using dashes or underscores, and write down your conventions in your documentation. So remember to be consistent and think critically about your file names. On the slide is an excellent file naming convention template with 2 examples. So file and folder organization is important for collaborators to have a structured and well-defined workspace. A great place to keep folders and files organized is Dropbox. Dropbox is a cloud-based productivity tool that is basically a home for all your work, and it enables you to access your files anywhere, anytime. You can share files on Dropbox and even edit them directly online, allowing that easy collaboration. You can also control who on the team sees certain files for how long and edit those edit permissions. So you can maintain control over your collaborators with Dropbox file sharing and access controls. The last element of organization is versioning. So versioning is very important when working with multiple people in groups, if all those people can, access files and edit them. Version control is used to capture a snapshot of files or project files in a moment of time, allows you to easily review the history of a project, manage future changes, and revert back to working versions if needed. And there are a few strategies for versioning files and documents. So the basic approach is versioning captured manually in your file names. An intermediate strategy is to use a platform with built-in version control capabilities like the Open Science Framework or Dropbox. And then the advanced way of implementing version control is using something like Git. Traditionally, this is used for code, but Git can be used for documents of any kind. So moving along here with our next poll question on organization, what organization strategies do you or your team use? And you can choose any 3 of these. Give you just a few seconds here to answer this question. Today's session may run a little longer than our 30 minutes. So I appreciate you staying on the full webinar today. Also understand if you need to sign off. This session is being recorded and you'll receive the recording and the slides later today. Great, so moving right along here, that's awesome to see that most of you are using a a combination of all three of these strategies. So that's great. Okay, so jumping to our final and third important element for successful collaboration, which is communication. So if you work in a large institution, you know communication is sometimes difficult and challenging. And working collaboratively with other people, you really need to focus on frequent communication. So if possible, meet regularly to check in, keep those lines of communication open with your team. If you don't have a clear timeline or clear research goals, it does become, easy to fall out of touch. And linking back to documentation, you want to take minutes of meetings and then distribute them to everyone involved in the research. This, provides that record that can be referred back to later. So the team should, develop this communication plan to determine the communications that are needed. So who needs to be communicated to, what needs to be communicated, when should it be communicated, where should it be communicated, why communication of information is essential and to what level is important, and then how the communication needs to be done. So collaborative project success really depends on effective communication, but this is kind of the case of any project. And there are many communication tools out there, way more than I can go into in such a short presentation today. But these may be sharing platforms like Slack to send messages or files to group members, or more formal project management tools like Trello or Basecamp. And these provide, a place for team members to keep track of tasks and more. So our final poll question of the day is, does your group or team have a communication plan? Okay, awesome. Running short on time, so we'll end the poll there. I'm quite impressed with the number of people who have said that their team has a communication plan. That is awesome. I hope it is working and moving slowly or moving smoothly for your teams. For those that don't, I encourage you to bring this back to your group or team and start developing some sort of plan. And if you don't know, you should ask. So that's awesome. Great. So I just want to finish with a view of this research lifecycle and show you that there are collaboration tools for many areas of this research process. So there's tools for project management, tools for reference management, data collection tools, data analysis tools, lab notebooks, co-authoring tools, and even those sharing repositories and archiving platforms can be considered for collaboration. So there's so many more I don't have time to mention today. I highlighted a few that I think will help you with those three effective areas of your collaborative research projects. And the takeaway here is that there are tools to help you with your research and ensure that the collaboration is successful. So take these back to your team, explore this landscape, and identify the tools that will work for your project. So some takeaways from today's webinar: research is frequently undertaken through the collective efforts of many individuals, and it often results from researchers who work together from different academic departments. It's also increasingly common for multiple institutions to work together on projects. There are many benefits of collaborative research, such as those more perspectives on a problem, greater efficiency through division of labor, increased access to research, and building those collegial relationships. Collaborative research can pose many ethical challenges, such as communication, authorship, order, and intellectual property rights. These are largely due to just the number of people or institutions that are involved. Key principles of effective collaboration include documentation, organization, and communication, and there are many tools throughout the research landscape that can help facilitate these principles for your successful collaborative projects. We have some upcoming webinars, so be sure to register at the link provided in the slide or on the slide. I want to thank you for joining today's webinar. The recording and the slides will be posted on our website and sent to you. I would appreciate your feedback on today's session, so please fill out the survey at the link provided on the slide.